Hello, DeMatha Nation. My name is Ben Fleri, DeMatha class of 2011 and current staff member here at DeMatha. Back in May, we interviewed several stags who were doing their part, not only to keep the community engaged throughout the pandemic, but who were contributing their time and resources to help us get through this unprecedented time. We hope to continue doing these interviews as a way to keep the DeMatha community engaged and as we continue to manage during this pandemic. So I'm joined today by fellow staff member Connor Glowacki and current DeMatha head basketball coach and former teammate of our interviewee here at DeMatha, Coach Mike Jones. Today's guest is current Howard University head men's basketball coach Kenny Blakeney. Kenny graduated from DeMatha in 1990, where he played under legendary coach Morgan Wooten, while also winning Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Maryland his senior year, as well as a conference title. After DeMatha, Kenny went on to play under Coach Krzyzewski at Duke University, where he won 2 national championships during his time there and graduated with a bachelor's degree in history. Kenny has had an extensive coaching career and has been part of many great basketball programs over the years, including being an assistant under Hall of Fame coach Lefty Driesell at James Madison University, as well as assistant coach at Delaware, Seton Hall, Marshall, Harvard, and Columbia, just to name a few. Coach Blakeney was hired as the 10th men's basketball coach at Howard University on May 6, 2019. So with that, good afternoon, Coach Blakeney, and thank you for joining us today.
Ben, how you doing, man? I'm glad to be here, and I apologize again for the technical challenges that I had trying to get on.
No worries, Coach. No worries. Thank you for hopping on. So before we get started, I just want to see how you're doing and how life's been treating you during this pandemic. Everything going well?
Everything is well, man. Family and friends are healthy. I haven't had a haircut in 7 months or a shave. But outside of that, everything else is terrific, man. No complaints at all on my end. Very lucky and very blessed at this moment.
Awesome, Coach. That's great to hear. So my first question is, so obviously I just want to know what it's like being coached by, a few legendary coaches, Morgan Wooten and Coach Krzyzewski. And are there any memories or stories that stick out from playing under either coach?
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of a dream, to be honest with you, to say that, I played under, Coach Morgan Wooten and then after finishing my time at DeMatha playing for Coach K. Coach Wooten gave me such consideration at a young age where the guidance I needed and I think the love and attention I needed, he was a godsend to me in that sense that directed me and gave me, I think, understanding and patience with allowing me to grow and helping me grow. Without Coach Wooten, honestly, man, I would not be here having this conversation with everyone on the screen. So I owe him so much for his kindness and his generosity towards me. After playing with, playing for Coach Wooten, going on to play at Duke University for Coach K, was an unreal kind of situation. To have a chance to play for, when Coach Wooten retired at the time, the winningest high school basketball coach in the history of the game, and then to take that next step to college to play for Coach K, who's the winningest college coach of all times. It's surreal, to be honest with you, Ben. A little bit of a dream.
Coach, thanks for joining us again today. Is there a specific teacher, and I know there's some pressure on you here because Neil Murphy's in on the call. Is there a specific teacher during your time at DeMatha that you felt inspired you, or did you have a favorite teacher or class in particular?
I needed all the inspiration, Connor, I could get. I wasn't a kid that was prepared for DeMatha, quite honestly. And that's just being transparent, man. So all of my teachers, DeMatha is such a compassionate place of education and of nurturing students. And, all of my teachers there did an unbelievable job. Certainly I had special relationships. Coach Neil Murphy's on this Zoom, and he's a guy that, still to this day is a mentor to me. Coach Murph came to one of my practices last year and gave me some great insight and some valuable, I think, knowledge to, improving my team as we went forward throughout the year. It's a family, man. And when you're in a loving, nurturing environment that is, family oriented, that's amazing, man. Even I've graduated from DeMatha in 1990, 30 years ago, and I'm still learning from the teachers and my mentors at DeMatha.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. Coach Jones, I don't know if you have a question for Coach Blakeney.
Of course. So, Kenny, obviously, again, like everybody else, thank you so much for your time. I know you guys are in a huge prep time right now. So that's what my question is. Like, as you guys, are preparing for, what we hope to be as normal of a basketball season as possible, like, how have you kind of managed getting your guys ready under the current circumstances?
Mike, that's a great question. There hasn't been, we've been back on campus maybe for 6 weeks now. And for the first 2 weeks that we were on campus, we had 6 or 7 young men that came in from hotspots that had to quarantine. So they were out for 2 weeks. And so we've been working with our guys for around 4 weeks now. And the big thing I noticed when we got back to school was how out of shape our guys were. So I prepared all summer and during this COVID period for like how we were going to move forward with some practices and different things like that. And it's, you think things are going in a straight line, and it's never going in a straight line. It's always this kind of wiggly line that we have to go in. We've had to stop practice, or I would say pause practice twice already, because we've had members in our athletic department, have positive tests. Our kids have done unbelievable with quarantining, with their, doing the things that they have to do in their housing situation. Being so disciplined outside of their housing situation, and not venturing outside of too much, other probably to get a haircut or some food. But they've been great. So we've had to pause twice, just with positive results. We've had to get tested. We're currently getting tested every Wednesday, starting in October, I think 12th or 14th. We go on a 3 times a week testing schedule. So it is challenging, Mike. I don't know, and I know Coach Simpkins is on this call. I don't know how we're going to get through this season without having our whole team together during this period. It just seems like somebody is going to test positive. There's going to be, something on, either with the staff that's associated with the program, someone in your program. It just does not seem like it's going to be a straight path that's kind of seamless, to be honest with you.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Coach. So what we'd like to do now is to open the floor to the audience. So if you would like to ask Coach Blakeney a question, again, you could just type your question into the chat bar. And if you could just put your name and the year you graduated DeMatha, if you are an alum, that would be great. And then myself or Connor will relay those questions to Coach Blakeney. So again, just ask that you keep your microphones on mute throughout the interview. So if you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat. Coach, while people are doing that, just another question from me. So you've been part of obviously many programs throughout your coaching journey. Is there a university or program in particular that had maybe the biggest impact on your coaching development? Is there one university that sticks out to you the most?
Yeah, I mean, look, having a chance to work for, Mike Brey, DeMatha alum, at the University of Delaware was almost like a dream come true for me. Coach Brey is a guy that I've known since I was a freshman at DeMatha, and someone who I really admire and looked up to. He's a father figure for me, and someone that has always been there since I've been 14 years old. So having a chance to work with him, to have a different kind of relationship with him was really neat. I had one as a kind of a player coach, but to take that, I think, to the next level as kind of like, uh, I'm a young man at the age of 24, 25, and he's still my mentor. He's my boss, but for him to see me as differently than probably as an undergrad or a high school student was really neat. And then the second relationship that I think has been really special for me is my relationship with Coach Tommy Amaker. Tommy Amaker is a Duke grad. He went to W.T. Woodson here in the DMV. And it was almost working with Coach Amaker and being at Harvard University was almost kind of like a graduate program for me in a sense of, he is just such a wise guy beyond his years and really allowed me a lot of growth at a time that I really was looking to grow. And I think just, the thing that he positioned me, with his mentoring to allow me to have an opportunity to have some success and to get this job at Howard.
Coach, we got a question from Dwayne Simpkins, class of 92, and also associate head coach for men's basketball, George Mason. What were your biggest challenges? You just finished your first year as head coach at Howard University. What were some of your biggest challenges you faced during that time and some of the biggest lessons you learned during your first season as head coach?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dwayne. I got hired, I think it was May 6th, and I was the second to last hire for Division I coaches that year. And we had lost 50% we had lost 50 points due to graduation and transfers before I got hired. I think if I had to kind of look at it again, one of the things I did is I went and, wanted to build the program from the ground up. And in doing so, I got some very talented kids that I think are going to be the future of the program. That really helped. I think, Coach Simpkins, one of the things that I would have done is I would have tried to find a little bit of a buffer or two with a grad transfer. Losing so many guys, I wanted to, I think one of the biggest lessons I learned is you really need to know your players. And I didn't know any of the guys that were returning, and that's not a knock on anybody. It's just the reality of what happens when someone gets let go from a job. They're typically getting let go because the success that they've had there wasn't the amount of success that probably the administration or supporters were wanted. So it took a whole year for us to kind of reset a little bit. So I go back to a lesson that Coach Brey used to talk about all the time in terms of recruiting. When you start to recruit guys from areas that, understand basketball. One of the things he always talked about is recruiting kids from Indiana, recruiting kids from North Carolina, recruiting kids from DC. And when I got hired, we only had one young man on our team from DC. So in a year, we were able to bring in 9 other guys from the DC area. And that means a lot to me because I know that, in the DC area, there's been more Division I basketball players in the last 15 years than any other area in the country. Also, there's been more NBA players, which means that the high school guys like Coach Mike Jones, the coaches at that level, the AAU guys, the workout guys are doing incredible jobs. So knowing their DNA a little bit, knowing where they come from, knowing their background is so important. And just, so I think that was probably one of the biggest lessons that I had to learn. And then the second lesson, I think, Coach, to be honest with you, is just how to temper your expectations versus the reality of what that job really means. I got a call from Ashley Howard one day. We had lost probably, 5 or 6 games in a row. We were on the road in the Midwest and never seemed like that trip was going to end. And Ashley Howard just called me up and said, "Hey, man," he goes, "I know your background from being at DeMatha and being at Duke, some of the things you've done as an assistant coach, but," he goes, "you're not going to win this year." And when that was like a reality check for me. And I had to I had to really take it in and say, okay, maybe he went through it a year before. He just got the head job at LaSalle. He went through it. And I was like, he just said, look, learn how to coach this year. Learn what you want to do, learn in-game situations, learn end-of-clock situations, learn drills you like, and just use it as an experiment year. And that's what I did. I took a step back. I had to kind of remove myself from my body. And I let go all the emotion and expectations and just concentrated on trying to teach our players how to play. And I think that helped us throughout the year. We were 4-29, but our last 4 games, we played the best basketball that we did all year. So I think stepping back and just teaching more and taking all the emotion out of things really helped my first year.
That's a great way to look at it. Thanks, Coach. And thanks, Coach Simpkins, for the question. Next question's from Bobby Hill, class of 1988. He says, Coach, what triggered you to move into coaching as a career choice? And how has recruiting changed since you were highly pursued out of DeMatha?
I think one of the things, being the DeMatha guy, playing for Coach Morgan Wooten, having incredible teammates like Coach Jones, Coach Simpkins, and Bobby Hill, who are on this call. Doing camps every year for Coach Wooten, it kind of gives you some resume experience on how to teach the game. Having some incredible coaches, Coach Murph, Pat Sullivan, Pat Smith, Coach Hibbs, all the guys that were coaches there, they were all teachers. They were all leaders. And I think you inherently just kind of pick things up. So making that transition from DeMatha to Duke, and you're around some incredible teachers with Coach K, Mike Brey, Tommy Amaker, Pete Gaudette. There's so many. I think I played with, Jeff Capel, who's a head coach right now at Pitt, Steve Wojciechowski, the head coach at Marquette. Chris Collins is the head coach at Northwestern. Bobby Hurley is the coach at Arizona State. There's 4 or 5 head coaches that were on our teams in the early 90s at Duke that are all head coaches now. So you're around a bunch of incredible teachers, and it inspires you to want to teach and lead and give back. And I think it was a very natural progression after I was done playing and very seamless to jump into coaching.
Coach, we got a question from Kevin Bradley, class of 96. He calls himself, was and still am a diehard Duke fan with fond memories of the year that you played for the Blue Devils. He was wondering if you could share some of the memories, especially, you played with a lot of loaded rosters like of Christian Laettner, Bobby Hurley, and especially your matchups with Kentucky in the NCAA tournament. Can you speak on some of your memories just of that matchup and just your time with playing with that kind of team?
Yeah, I mean, the first thought, and this goes a little bit to my team that we're trying to, I think, teach or recruit. The first thought that I had was that we were around an incredible group of competitive guys. I don't know how many guys were on our team at the time, 13 or 14 or 15, how many you could have at that point in time. But there was a really neat video that came out a couple weeks ago by Kara Lawson, who's now the head coach at Duke on the women's side. And she talked about the difference of playing hard and being competitive. And, we had a competitive team. Like our team at Howard right now, we play really hard, but we don't have 13 guys that are, as competitive as I would like them to be. And we're trying to build that. I don't know if that's something that you can build or that's just something that you have to recruit. So that's stuff that we're taking a look at now. But when I think about, our teams at Duke, we were extremely competitive, and we always talked about how the practices at Duke were much harder than the games. So my fondest memories Kevin, to be honest with you, were spent on the practice court at Duke and spent in the locker room after practices or games. When we just used to sit around and, joke about who got dunked on or who got cooked that day, or, who got the best of an individual. We still joke about those things to this day. All of us are still in contact with one another. And there's a brotherhood there that is, 100% real. In terms of the Kentucky game, that was the most, that game was like a roller coaster. I can't remember how many lead changes there was in that game, but it was just a back and forth match. And it was basically who got the last shot off was going to win that game. And we were very fortunate to get the last shot off when time expired. And, Christian Leitner receiving a pass from Grant Hill. It's something that we played Wake Forest earlier at Wake Forest, and Wake Forest had Randolph Childress. They had Rodney Rogers. They had Anthony Tucker. Some familiar names from the area with Anthony Tucker and Randolph Childress. And we lost there. We ran that same play that we executed against Kentucky. And when Grant threw the ball, it was a curve ball and went out of bounds. So, we ran that same play again and had some luck with it. But, being a part of 2 Final Fours or 2 national championships and 3 Final Fours, man, it's I pinch myself all the time. Just, the luck, just being in the right place at the right time, I think, I just think it's such a blessing to have that opportunity and to be a part of a small part of a big part of history.
That's awesome, Coach. Thank you. Next question from J.P. Garvin. He's class of 1990. He said that you spoke about your coaching mentors and their influence on you. How do those experiences shape how you mentor your assistant coaches?
It means a lot, quite honestly. And JP, thanks for the call, for the question, and good to see you. It means a lot to try to mentor young coaches, because I was I was an assistant coach for such a long time, and didn't get my first head coaching opportunity until I was, I think, 47. So for me, it's very important, I think, to give back to those guys as much as I can. I give them a lot of responsibility, maybe too much responsibility. But I think for them, it's the only way that they're going to learn and grow. When I got hired at Howard, I hired 3 guys that never were full-time assistant coaches. Tyler Thornton, who's a Gonzaga grad. Don't hold that against me, stagnation, please. But Tyler Thornton played at Duke, was a guy that had incredible pedigree, somebody I knew from afar that would be a really good coach and teacher. Eric Atkins, he played his high school basketball at Mount St. Joe's. And then for Mike Brey a little bit, for 4 years for Mike Brey, and it was a 3-year starter. In his senior year, he was an all ACC selection. So I with those 2 guys, it was people that I knew. It was in the family from the Duke perspective, and I knew like the language, the terminology, the hard work, all of that stuff was already there with Tyler. And then Eric, being a Notre Dame guy, working with Mike Brey, he was a film coordinator for 2 years before I hired him at Howard with Mike Brey. And after playing there, it was almost like those guys were family, and I didn't know them, but I knew them. And then I brought in a guy that was somebody I shared an office with at Columbia for a couple months, Jake Brown, who was from the Honesdale, Pennsylvania area. He played his college ball at Middlebury, and was a grad assistant with me. And I allow those guys a lot of responsibility, to be honest with you, because I really feel that it's going to help their growth, and it will allow me to really, I think, concentrate on some other areas of the program that we may need to put a lot of attention to.
Coach, Kirk Taylor from the class of 93 wants to know, what do you think it takes for long-term success in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference and recruiting elite level talent? You just signed back in July, it became national news. Top recruit Makur signed in July with Howard. I mean, what was that signing mean to you? And yeah, just going back to Kirk's question, what does it take for that long-term success in the conference and getting that elite talent to come to a school like Howard?
Yeah, Kirk, what's up, man? How you doing? I hope all is good with you and the fam. Howard was a job that I really wanted, if that makes sense. I pursued it. And the reason I wanted it is because for 10 years, for 8 years, excuse me, I was out of the college coaching business. I started a business and got into entrepreneurship with doing accessories for a lot of the pro leagues. I worked at Under Armour as a consultant for 4 years doing marketing in the grassroots college level and also in the NBA. So with both of those kind of work opportunities, I started to understand branding and marketing at a high level. And it kind of made me understand the brand Howard and the history and tradition of Howard University. So, in coming here, one of the things and everybody here is from the DMV area. My first thought was that Howard was never serious about athletics, only academics. Howard is a top 80 school in the country, according to U.S. News World Report, in which, all the alums, our administration, and everybody's extremely proud of. But Howard has never had a winning tradition. And that was something else that kind of drew me to the job. Kurt, I think one of the things that can give this opportunity, I think, a chance to have some legs is to try to really get the infrastructure together. There hasn't been much, I think, renovations or infrastructural things done to the offices at Howard, done to the locker room area, or to Bird Gym or our practice gym. So, I'm out raising. I just brought in $1 million last week of a contribution that somebody gave our basketball program that's going to develop our practice gym. I'm in the process of raising another $1 million that will work towards our locker room and also our offices. So what we want to do is we want to position the program in a way where student athletes that are looking at Howard don't have to compromise anything by choosing Howard or looking at Howard. We have an incredible opportunity because a lot of families really understand the history and tradition of Howard, and they would love their kids to take a look at it. And it's up to us as a staff to really, I think, identify who those young men are and then show them the future of Howard basketball. And, we were able to get McCord Maker. Long story short, we put together a 100-page marketing plan on basically how his time at Howard would go. And since his commitment on July 3rd to Howard University, he's gotten over 1 billion, billion with a B, social media impressions, which translates to him over $4.5 million into marketing, exposure. And the other thing with that is that his draft status has gone up since he committed to Howard. So, the plan so far is working towards everything that we showed McCord. So it's kind of thinking outside the box a little bit. It's kind of looking at this situation as it's never been looked at before. And in a little bit, I think trying to take some chances, some calculated chances in areas that you may have a chance to win those battles and have some success.
Kenny, I want to piggyback on that. So, I know you guys had, Josh Christopher come out for a visit, last spring. That got a lot of attention, him being a top 5 kid in his class. Obviously, you got McCord. Like, you've had these high profile guys, like, really start to consider HBCUs as a whole, but Howard specifically. Like, do you feel any pressure for that being the case? And, whether it was your plan to get these guys or, like, this has to go well, like that type of thing. Do you feel any extra pressure with that being kind of on your plate now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first part is it wasn't the plan. You know, I think with recruiting, Mike, and you know this as well as anyone, it's the relationships that you can have with either the families, the student athletes. And I had a relationship with McCord Maker's guardian that goes back. He's a DC guy, played at St. John's, gentleman named Ed Smith. So Ed and I had a relationship that went back probably 15 years. And, you know, the expectations at Howard with some alums, they think Howard should be in the national championship game every year, which is insane to me. Especially when I ask them, right, when they say something like that, I'm like, are you contributing to our program? Like, are you giving back to the university? Because if you see our gym, I love our gym, but you look at our gym compared to maybe like Kansas or Kentucky, like those are the teams that are winning the arms race, you know, year in and year out. And yeah, to the last question, that there is a little bit of some pressure. I think when I started coaching our guys this year, I was coaching them entirely too hard, and I had to take a step back. And I think all of that has, you know, understanding, Mike, that this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Yeah, I think I had to take a step back and try to look at this from a different lens. And I had to think about the question that you just asked. So I have taken a step back, and I've kind of gone back in the mode of last year where I just need to teach. I was trying to coach effort and other things other than teaching. And I consciously say to myself every day before practice that you got to teach and you got to lead. And if the guys aren't giving you the effort that you need, just work with the guys that will give you that effort. So I don't want to coach effort, and I keep trying to tell our guys that. You know, we're not going to get ready-made kids at Howard, and some of the kids that are at Howard are here for a reason. And that's at a lot of places at our level. They're missing something. So it's, you know, I want to push, I want to challenge, I want to be competitive as a coach, but I also really had to step back and just, okay, this is what we have. We have enough guys that really want to compete and get after it. Let's just coach those guys that want to do that and keep moving forward with the program.
That's awesome. So one more, Ben. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you're good.
Because I gotta get an update. He's got 2 stags on his squad. So we just want to. I'm sure I speak for everybody. We want to know how Steve Settle and Devon Richmond are doing for you.
I thank you for asking, Mike, and certainly I'm so happy to have those 2 guys on our team. You know, Steve came in last year as a freshman, and you know the story. I don't know how many guys on this call know this. Steve was a 5'9" freshman when he got to DeMatha. And when he graduated, Steve might have grown into 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", but he only weighed 155 pounds. And when I got the job, I called up Mike and asked, I said, hey, are there any guys that I need to know at DeMatha that, you know, are still available? And he said, yeah, Steve Settle is here. And he told me about him, his background and that interesting story. And he was like, you know, you better call him quick because he just paid his deposit to go to prep school. So Mike, thank you for that one. I got Steve and, you know, was able to recruit him and get him to Howard. We redshirted him last year, but Steve is a guy that if he pushes himself, he has a chance to play at the next level and make some money somewhere in the world. And when I say make some money, I think it's a considerable amount, either a high level in Europe or to be a rotational player in the NBA. He's put on, I think, about 30 pounds since he's been with us for a year. He is an incredible offensive weapon. While he was sitting out last year, I played him at the point guard position just to continue to develop and give him confidence of handling the ball. I knew he always could shoot it and can score the ball, but I wanted to give him more of a I think, overall development that could translate to helping our team this year. So he played a lot of point guard for us, and he is doing a really, really fine job. Devon Richmond, who graduated, played for Mike, went to Howard County Community College, won the Maryland State Championship last year, is somebody I'm really happy we have. He's ultra competitive. He's a tough kid. He's got a great motor, and he's really going to help us on both sides of the ball this year. So excited to have him. He's a 6'4", probably 195 pounds, solid young man that just works his tail off. And really excited to have both of those guys. And, thank you, Mike, for bringing that up and allowing me to talk about those guys a little bit, because they are going to be major contributors to our program. Devon has 2 more years. Steve has 4 years. And I'm excited about the future for those 2 guys, because they're going to be, like I said, major contributors for our program.
Thanks, Coach. Just a few more questions here. So you have a pretty historical game coming up on actually Martin Luther King Jr. Day, 2021. You guys are playing. So Notre Dame's going to travel to DC to play you guys. And obviously you're going to be going up against one of your former coaches. And I know you were an assistant coach with Mike Brey at Delaware. I don't know if you've been able to talk to him, recently, or, I know you probably learned a great deal from Coach Brey, but, not only from coaching with him at Delaware, but also at DeMatha. But, if you've had any conversations with him recently, and if so, what are those been like, and what will it be like to go up against him in 2021?
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to hate going up against him, quite honestly. It's one of the things that probably coaches hate the most is going against people that they love and care about, because somebody's going to be excited after the game and somebody's going to feel like crap after the game. In that sense, that I'm not looking forward to the game, but I think the game surrounds some very, substantial, I think weekend with Dr. King's birthday, the holiday weekend. It's a couple of days before the inauguration. We're in a period right now of social unrest and COVID. And Coach Brey and our teams, we teamed up probably around 3 months ago, and we were the first teams to do it. We got with When We All Vote, which is a national voter registration organization that is headed by founded by Michelle Obama, Chris Paul, and others. And we've been engaging and registering people to vote. So that was our first, I think, thing that we did collectively together to kind of introduce what we were doing going forward. We've talked about some social, things that we can kind of surround this game with. If it's, things that we're talking about right now and still trying to bring more awareness to all the social unrest that's going on. And having a chance to have a Power 5 university come to Howard is huge. It's, one of the things I think with, us being a historical Black college and university, when I'm talking to Power 5 universities or other schools to come play us at Howard, it's people kind of look at it like, I don't want to bring my team there. Like, but when I kind of talk to them about like how, if they're at a PWI, and we call PWIs predominantly white institutions, if they're at a PWI and their team is comprised of 65 to 70% on average African-American student athletes, to bring their teams to an HBCU is a educational and a life experience for them. Some of these kids have never been on an HBCU. So it's really important for them to see the tradition, the history, the culture that goes on at a place like Howard University, where we've had Thurgood Marshall, the first Supreme Court Justice, Kamala Harris, who's running with Joe Biden as her vice president mate, Mayor David Dinkins, who was the first Black mayor of New York City, Governor Wilder, who was the first Black governor of Virginia. You can go on down the list of people that accomplished some historical things. And I think student athletes need to understand that history a little bit more. because that history isn't being taught in, predominantly the history books that we're using in our schools. So, it's a chance for teams from out of town during non-COVID years to take their teams to the Black History Museum. There's so much history and culture that you can surround coming to DC and playing Howard University and using it as an educational tool that I think universities need to take a look at.
Coach, you were inducted last year into the DeMatha Hall of Fame. How was that moment for you? And what is DeMatha, just as a school you went at? What does that all mean to you?
I was very lucky and blessed to be inducted. It's crazy because I'm so far removed from DeMatha that I forgot that I was even a good player at one time, I guess. So, I just, that part is a little surreal. There's so many incredible players and coaches that, have been inducted into that Hall of Fame. To be included with those guys is, that Hall of Fame, man, you can put with universities Hall of Fames, you can put with pro sports Hall of Fames. That's big time. So to say that I contributed a little bit to be included in a group of guys and people that have touched DeMatha and young men at DeMatha, and even my class, I had females in my class at DeMatha, the only class. That's a special moment. And honestly, my 4 years at DeMatha, you probably can count it as 5 with all the Saturday detentions I had and after school detentions. It really shaped me to be the person that I am today. There's no doubt about it that DeMatha, in terms of that influence on me, really, stands out and sticks out. And I think has molded me in a way that to go out and really believe in serving, leading, and giving back. And that's something that we talk about with our team all the time, is having the ability to serve, lead, give back. 3 things that we did during COVID, and there were things that we're going to implement into our program. We did a fundraiser, a virtual fundraiser that went over a 3-week period. Our students, when they had to leave campus, some of our students didn't have, and not even student athletes, some of our students didn't have enough money to get home. They couldn't afford plane tickets. Some of their parents had gotten furloughed. So the university has a Howard University Assistance Fund. And we were able to do a virtual fundraiser for 3 weeks and raising money for students that needed, some help during a challenging time. And their family might have needed some assistance. So we're very proud as a program to be a part of that. We've had a speaker series where we had over 20 to 25 of the most influential people in the country. And that's, I would put our speaker series up with any speaker series that is going on right now, with some of the most influential people that we could discuss the current situations of social unrest and COVID, but also have our guys meet people, connect with people, and develop relationships with, leaders that can one day be mentors for them. And the last thing we did is we got together with Notre Dame and registered people to vote. So all of those lessons on leading, serving, and giving back are things that I learned at DeMatha. We had to do 40 hours of community service at DeMatha in order to graduate. I don't know if that's changed or not, but lessons like that have stayed with me, man, for the 30 years that I've been out. So I really think that a lot of the things that I'm implementing into our program at Howard are lessons that I was taught at DeMatha.
Great. Thank you so much, Coach. I mean, it's just to hear everything you're not only doing for the program, but also for the community. It's great to hear. And I know it's inspiring to a lot of us. So I appreciate, you sharing all your stories and initiatives with us. I think that's going to conclude our afternoon with Coach. So just thank you to everyone who joined the forum, for everyone's terrific questions, and obviously special thank you to you, Coach Blakeney, for joining us. It was a real pleasure getting to chat with you and hearing your stories and your experiences at DeMatha and so forth. So good luck on the upcoming season, Coach. I hope you're able to have a full one, but we'll be rooting for you over here at DeMatha. and hopefully we get to have you back here on campus sometime soon. But until then, stay safe, Coach, and thanks for your time today. Go Stags.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you guys taking time to invite me on. This was incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Coach.
Coach Leroy, wake up, Coach Leroy.
Take care, guys.
Take care.